Right, it is a Saba Saba Day, a special commemoration of the very first anti-single party rule demonstrations 35 years ago. That was 1990. Were you born back then? Okay. So many people, even in this studio, I think I'm the only one who can actually say I'm commemorating Saba Saba. But yes, we're doing it in style. And of course, a lot of expectation on what is happening today. But this is Morning Cafe. Today it's going to be a bit different. My name is Freddie Ndumuli. Karibu sana.
My name is Anne Odida. Of course, it is Saba Saba Day. Isha Semwa. This is Morning Cafe. Karibu sana.
Today, the biggest issue is going to be anyone trying to access the CBD. This is a map of Nairobi. The city center is somewhere here. And you can see Valley Road, the entire stretch of Valley Road has been blocked. That's why you can see all these signs. Also, all the way from Nyayo Stadium into the CBD has been blocked from that slip road all the way from Langata Road, that side of Nairobi West. If you go to the eastern side, you can already see a problem at Gikomba. There's a stretch of red there and yellow, and I think that's going to be the situation. If you move towards Thika Road, the entire stretch of Muranga Road has been blocked to traffic. You can't access the CBD. That means even Thika Road now it's building up. There's a long stretch of yellow at the Pangani interchange. But look at this. Once you go further up, there's a situation at Allsops. A long stretch of yellow all the way from Garden City, meaning this is where you come to a halt. Yeah. Further up, the same situation is presenting itself at Kasarani. So it means that anyone coming from areas like Ruiru, Githurai, heading towards the CBD, Thika Road is at a standstill. Most other areas, Kiambu Road, I can already see here at Pipeline. Where hapa ni wapi hapa? DCI. Ni kama kuna shida inafika hapo inafungwa. Let's take a look at Wayaki Way. Also, we see mahali imefika. The expressway is good all the way. ABC Place not bad, but yes, once you get to Pangani, not Pangani, Kangemi, wamefunga pale traffic. So traffic kutoka ABC Place heading towards town. The biggest problem is getting into town right now. Lakini niliona serikali waliambia watu wenye wanafanya kazi, wafanya kazi wote wa serikali wafike kazini. Lakini barabara tutatumia gani? That's the question.
Fly.
All right, that's the traffic situation. Probably later on we'll be able to take a look at it, but let's focus on the headlines this morning. The Standard.
Don't kill our sons.
Oh yes, simple, forward sentence, don't kill our sons. People Daily, a defiant nation. I don't know why this echo is there. A defiant nation echo. People Daily.
Taifa Leo, mtihani mgumu wa Saba Saba.
Saba Saba test. Same thing there on the front page of the Daily Nation, and a picture there of back then, 1990, 35 years ago, how it was done then. And insert here a picture of how the Gen Zs are doing it now. It's a Daily Nation.
The Star, police, medics and lawyers fuel insurance claims fraud. Fresh, independent, different.
Totally independent and different. But at least it makes mention of some good news down here. Kenyan track queens reign supreme and fruitful weekend. And I have Faith Kipyegon, Emily Chepkemoi, and another one here. Anaitwa nani huyu? Beatrice Chebet, who all won their races in Nairobi and 2 of them in the US. Faith Kipyegon finally managed to run that 1500 meters race in less than 4 minutes.
Oh, wow.
Congratulations to her. She broke the world record. At least some...
Beatrice also broke a world record yesterday.
All right. So congratulations to the Kenyan track queens. Even as we look forward to events of today, there's something to applaud people about. That's the Star.
Inside Kenya's 6.97 trillion shillings dirty money crackdown.
All right. Hey. All right, so for the State of the Nation, we are hoping that we'll be having this gentleman in studio. Kipruto Arap Kirwa was a former cabinet minister. Samuel Pogishio was a former cabinet minister as well. And Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo coming your way starting at 6:30. Just looking at remembering what happened 35 years back and how different it is right now. That there's a lot of comparison between, because back then, those, including people like James Orengo, were very young. They were calling themselves young tax. Right now, James Orengo, I think, is close to 80. And wale wengine wako hapo. Tuvuke boda tuangazie watu wanazungumzia nini East Africa. On the East African, wanasema South Sudan hawana pesa. Irani hana pesa. Kir 6 UAE bailout as staff sue over salaries. Broke and dependent on oil exports. Juba is finding it hard to even pay workers. 9 Kenyan embassy staff have sued over unpaid dues. The President Kiir returning to South Sudan after a 2-week trip in the United Arab Emirates. Ile ambeho mbeho tusaidie tulipe mishahara. Yeah. Rwanda marking a Liberation Day. It's a picture there on the front page. Rwandan exporter bought smuggled DRC coltan. UN report alleges that Boss Mining purchased minerals from rebel-held area against rules. And US wins big in Kigali, Congo peace agreement. A lot of Rwanda DRC news in the East African today. Let's get closer home.
Uganda Daily Monitor, merchants of abortion. For a fee, young girls are finding themselves in the hands of brokers operating in the dark who lead them to abortion clinics. Very interesting here. Is it the money, procedure, and the law? Now, brokers are charging between 150,000 shillings, that is Ugandan money, and 500,000 shillings to link girls to abortion clinics. The clinics this newspaper surveyed are scattered across the neighborhoods of Makindye, Masaija, Makerere, Nakulabye, and Namusaba, all Kampala city suburbs. Now, after the price is agreed upon, brokers instruct clients to transfer payments via mobile money on lines that are not registered in either the doctor's or broker's name. Meanwhile, the penalty is under Section 141. Anyone who administers any poison, noxious substance or uses any force on a woman with intent to cause termination of a pregnancy can be imprisoned for 14 years. Now, the police in charge of the Child and Family Protection Unit say abortion cases are registered commonly among youths and teenagers. This is Uganda. Appointments only available during evening hours between 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. and only for abortion with the brokers.
This takes me back to the conversation we were having both in Kenya and Uganda and Tanzania about young girls, teenagers being put on family planning. Yeah, it's happening in Kenya, it's happening in Tanzania. I think it's a debate that they should consider now in Uganda.
Because in the USA, I know they're giving the young kids family planning.
All right.
Other stories here, Museveni defense order to evict Balalo from Northern, and another interesting story, NRM elected Museveni. Agreed unanimously.
Any automatic.
that he will represent NRM next year's election.
Right. That's a Daily Monitor. Or Paleju, they mentioned the elections.
Yes. Uganda's 2026 elections platform will be bold and truthful.
On this paper. Still in Uganda, Northern Uganda voters choose MPs. Poll covered Acholi, Lango and West Nile. Nafikiri ndio wale wamekaribia wale watu wetu wa pale Nyanza. But pale chini lazima picha mahali Rais Museveni yuko akisalamia watu. Museveni nominated as NRM sole presidential flag bearer. Kuna wale walikuwa nasema ati they can challenge him. Pole kwao. And that's Uganda. Let's cross over into Tanzania. We start off with the Citizen.
What World Bank's higher poverty threshold means, and the World Bank has introduced a new global poverty threshold, raising the international poverty line from $2.15 to $3 per person per day. In local terms, the new benchmark translates to approximately 7,835 Tanzanian shillings per person per day, or 234,000 shillings per month, using the prevailing exchange rate of 2,611.6 shillings per dollar. This story is on page 2. And according to Dr. Mwinuka Lutengamo from the University of Dodoma, this is a global benchmark and often higher than Tanzania's national poverty line. The national poverty line will naturally increase once it is adjusted to reflect current realities, and this process depends on prices of goods and services, national economic strength, and income indicators. The poverty rate in sub-Saharan has been revised upward, of course, from 37 to 45.5%, increasing the estimated number of people living in extreme poverty from 448 million to 559 million. That's an additional 111 million people who now fall below the poverty line by international standards. This story has been covered on page 2. Other stories here: Samia renews Africa's economic freedom message. Skincare no longer the preserve of women as Gen Z redefines it.
Ninajua mtu alienda pale X akaambia watu skincare routine yake na inamcost pesa ngapi kila mwezi.
Mtu ni mimi. I can give you evidence. Other stories here: EU ties in focus as Cyprus minister visit Tanzania. And that's the Citizen.
Tukisalia kule Tanzania, wanazungumzia masuala ya bomu jipya Kariakoo. Ni changamoto ya miundombinu, infrastructure. Ripoti maalum kwenye ukurasa wa 4 na 5. Samia ajitosa ufundishaji Kiswahili Komoro. Anda kufunza Komoro Kiswahili. Siakuja Kenya anze na sisi. Pale juu siku 30 za ACT kujenga msingi wa ushindi. Watashinda wapi? Lakini ACT ni ile ya Zanzibar. Na wanaofanya kazi kwa karibu sana na Chama cha Mapinduzi. Habari hiyo ya utunzaji ngozi kwa wanaume wazua mjadala. Wanasema Dar es Salaam kule kuna miongo kadhaa huduma ya ngozi maarufu skincare ilionekana kama jambo la wanawake, watu maarufu, watu wa mitandao ya kijamii, lakini sasa wanaume wameingia kule.
Wanakuanga ni wewe tu hujaingia.
Mimi ni kama sijapata memo ya skincare 18,000 per month.
Habari ndio hiyo.
Alright, haya ndio magazeti ya humu nchini na kwenye kanda la Afrika Mashariki. Tutarejelea kuangalia magazeti ya hapa nchini kwa kina. Tuangazie hali ya anga. Na tunaanza na kule juu Garissa. Wanasema 23 degrees Celsius, a bit cloudy, highs of 32 degrees. That's the northern part of the country, 0 millimeters, 0 chance of rain. In Nyeri, imeandika Mnyeri.
14 degrees in Nyeri, feels like it's a cloudy day, but it's also raining. Highs of 19 degrees in Nyeri. Precipitation here is 3.1 millimeters.
In the Rift Valley, we focus on Eldoret today. It's very chilly, 13 degrees Celsius, very cloudy as well. Chances of rain are very high as well. Highs of 21 degrees. Hiyo ni 4.0 millimeters, which is higher than in Nyeri. Kisumu?
19 degrees, feels like 24 as we speak, a cloudy day as well, and sunny as well. 26 degrees, precipitation 0 millimeters.
What about the coast now? Incidentally, a number of people who were coming to Nairobi are stranded at the coast because the SGR yesterday at 2 p.m. and at 10 p.m. haikuleta watu. Na nasikia wamefunga barabara, huwezi ingia Mombasa, huwezi toka. Kule pwani hakuendeki, hakutokeki. It's quite hot also, 23 degrees Celsius right now. It will get as high as 27 degrees, although there's a bit of cloud cover. Precipitation 0.2 millimeters. So kama ulikuwa kule Mombasa, umefungiwa huko na ulikuwa ukuje urudi kazi leo. The good thing is that I don't think there will be a lot happening in Nairobi. You can extend your holiday kidogo. Alafu upande ya jioni kama itakuwa.
You're a civil servant. Shauri yako.
Lakini civil servants waliambiwa wakuwe kazini, muspende.
Finally, Nairobi, 16 degrees, feels like 15 this morning. Promises to be a rainy day. They say it's cloudy, but highs of 20 degrees in Nairobi. Precipitation here, 3.0 millimeters. We're expecting rain starting now hadi jioni.
All right. So at least itasaidia kama kutakuwa na tear gas. So,
let's take a look at the quote of the day. Live intentionally. Craft a life that reflects your heart. When passion meets purpose, you'll love every moment. You're truly present.
all right, let's come back and take a look at the local dailies. All right, we start off with the Standard, and this is an appeal there by mothers. Don't kill our sons. In a clear case of increasing lawlessness and the rule of bygones, mothers meeting to call for restraint from police during today's protest were visited by a gang of club-wielding thugs who broke into the compound of the Kenya Human Rights Commission. They violently scuttled the event, citing orders from above. Not intimidated, the mothers regrouped and proceeded to Muthangari police station, and from outside the gates delivered their message. Don't kill our children during Saba Saba. And I think this was really brilliant for them. They realized, okay, sawa, gunzi wako huko, tuende police station. Kama utakuja police station, sawa. So the story is on page 4, 5, 6, and 7. A special coverage of Saba Saba. And I encourage anyone who may not really understand the connection between what happened in 1990 on 7th of July and what's happening now to read the Standard. There's some special coverage on Saba Saba 2025. 35 years later, there's a Subukia MP, Koigiwa Mwere, who's there seen on page 6 in dreadlocks. He was one of those people who were arrested during the Saba Saba demonstrations. He ended up becoming MP for Bahati. Right now he doesn't have the dreadlocks. But a lot of defiant headlines huku ndani wanasema chaos as goons attack mothers, free emergency services, private hospitals prepare for anniversary, Gen Z rekindles 1990s reform spirit, calls for good governance, and schools in major towns closed in fear of protests. That's the coverage there. Huku ndani, Kindiki's staff task of digging out Gachagwa's deep roots in Mount Kenya is another story there. And most of the editorials are talking about the Saba Saba and the protests that are expected today. Back page of this paper, and yes, a dedication to the queens of the track, how Chebet and Kipyegon made history with world records in Eugene. Double Olympic champion Beatrice Chebet celebrating after setting a new world record in the women's 5,000 meters at the Diamond League meeting in Eugene, Oregon on Saturday. And we have Olympic champion Faith Kipyegon after breaking her own 1,500 meters world record. So yes, congratulations once again to double Olympic champion Beatrice Chebet and Olympic champion Faith Kipyegon on their wins over the weekend. That's the Standard today.
All right, let's take a look at the Daily Nation. Saba Saba test. Echoes from the past 35 years since the inaugural Saba Saba pro-form demos on July 7, 1990. The country continues to grapple with poor governance, corruption, abductions, extrajudicial killings, and other ills, issues that have now compelled the Gen Z, who are not yet born, to pick up the mantle in the fight for good governance. Above this photo here on the front page of the Daily Nation, veteran politicians Martin Shukuku and James Orengo, among others, flash the opposition two-finger salute as they head to the Kamukunji grounds in Nairobi for a rally to press for multi-party democracy in 1991. And on the right, kule chini, they just posted with a photo of youthful protesters as they picket on Kenyatta Avenue in Nairobi on June 25th this year. Of course, Raila Odinga amesema agenda ya Saba Saba remain. Yeye atakuwa pale Kamukunji today to mark Saba Saba. But will the Gen Zs be there?
Anaingia kwa street hata yeye.
Yeah, atakuwa Kamukunji. Amesema hao ndio founders wa Saba Saba, and whatever they were fighting for has never been, achieved. So atakuwa pale Kamukunji. Yeye ndiye alisema. Sasa asipokuwa usije kusema mimi nilisema fake news. And the inside of this newspaper echoes from the pastors' youth lead push for good governance, more officers on city streets to secure protesters, and curb looting. We are deeply sorry, says spokesman for police as he reflects on June 25th protests. How death stared us in the face at point blank range on June 25th. This is a special coverage here. And Ruto pray against violence during protests. IEBC an ambitious 3.5 billion shillings relocation from the CBD plan. And on the back page of this newspaper, from human to hero, how Kipyegon and Chebet inspired each other's record-breaking runs. Mary Moraa fades to 9th in women's 800 meters race of Prefontaine Classic Diamond League meeting. And of course, this is Beatrice Chebet. She won the women's 5,000 meters in a world record time of 13 minutes, 58 seconds on Saturday in the 50th Prefontaine Classic Diamond League at Hayward Field in Oregon. and also Faith Kipyegon as celebrating after winning the women's 1500 meters in a world record time of 3 minutes 48 seconds on Saturday in the 50th Prefontaine Classic Diamond League at Hayward Field in Oregon. That's the Daily Nation.
Tuangazie Taifa Leo, anasema mtihani mgumu wa Saba Saba. Taharuki ya tanda kuhusu maadhimisho ya Saba Saba, shughuli nyingi zikitarajiwa kukwama kwa hofu ya fujo. Hapa kuna picha ya kina mama, huyu mmoja anaitwa Ruth Mumbi akizungumza na wanahabari kwenye ofisi ya tume ya kutetea haki za binadamu Kenya KHRC jijini Nairobi jana. Hii ilikuwa punde baada ya wahuni kuvamia afisi hizo na kuvuruga mkutano wa kina mama waliokuwa wakipanga kuzungumza na wanahabari kuhusu maadhimisho ya siku ya leo. So serikali inakabiliwa na kibarua kigumu cha kuhakikisha usalama bila vurugu, vifo na hasara katika maandamano huku jijini Nairobi, ishara za fujo zikiibuka baada ya wahuni kuvamia wanaharakati waliokuwa wanapanga maandamano jana. Serikali yasisitiza leo si siku ya mapumziko, mwende kazini, ikiwataka wafanyikazi wafike kazini, huku biashara nyingi katika maeneo ya miji zikitarajiwa kufungwa. Baadhi ya shule pia zimewataka wanafunzi kukaa nyumbani, Raila akiwaalika vijana Kamkunji. Hapo Raila is a new entry, I think is going to be the spice in this, but I'm wondering what is the intention of him getting to the streets today. Vidokezo zaidi, IEBC ataka bilioni 3.5 ya makao. Hata tunajaribu kutafuta pesa ya uchaguzi, hao wanataka ya mahali wataka. Waislamu walalamikia urithishaji, na pale chini masuala ya spoti, Real Madrid na PSG za tua 4 bora FIFA. Hiyo habari ya warembo wa Kenya walioshinda katika mbio tofauti kule Marekani. Kenya yafuta rekodi 2 za dunia mbioni. Huyo ni Faith Kipyegon na Beatrice Chebet. Siku ya Kiswahili duniani, ulimwengu kuadhimisha leo sherehe za 4 tangu lugha hii ipewe siku. Kwa hivyo leo ni Kiswahili Day, lakini hatujui hivyo. Siku ya Kiswahili, Taifa Leo.
People Daily, a defiant nation, echo. Now, tension as youths resist Ruto and vow to return to the trenches as they embrace Saba Saba spirit to push for change. Tukisoma tu kidogo what they're saying President William Ruto's administration faces another major test today as Gen Z activists have vowed to return to the streets, threatening the country's economic and political stability. The youth are expected to take over the streets in major towns, driven by anger, frustration, and what they see as betrayal by those in power. They're calling it Saba Saba, borrowing the weight of a date that shook the political establishment in 1990 when Kenyans rose to demand greater democracy. This time they say it's about justice, dignity, and survival.
Right.
Auditor flags Education Ministry over 6.6 billion shillings for classrooms. And on the top strip, Wetangula warns of 2007-like violence. That's the People Daily.
All right. Sasa tukitoka kwa hizo gazeti tuende kwa nyingine ambayo inazungumzia maswala tofauti. Fresh, independent, different. This is a Star. While everyone else is talking about Saba Saba and what will happen today, they talk about police and medics and lawyers fueling insurance claims fraud. Crooked officers part of syndicate swindling firms out of billions of shillings. This is a story there on pages 4 and 5. They've only given a very small space for issues around Saba Saba. There, pale juu kwa top strip, wanasema Saba Saba goons attack KHRC as malls and schools close over chaos fears. But here insurance, wacha tuone wanasema nini. Behind billions of shillings in an annual profits and dividends issued by Kenya insurance sector, a silent scheming is bleeding underwriters. Men and women in white coats, badges and briefcases who are expected to help uphold the law are colluding to break it and rob insurers of millions of shillings. All right, so that's what they're talking about. Back to the front page. 789 group woman bakes her way to success after tragedy. Propaganda, Ruto says, of 1.2 billion shilling. Anasema ni propaganda. Si alisema ana apologies. Mbona wanasema ni propaganda? President Ruto on Sunday dismissed as false and exaggerated reports that the church under construction at State House is costing taxpayers 1.2 billion, calling the claims gossip, propaganda and hate. Nyinyi muna propaganda nyingi sana. That's the Star. Fresh, independent, and different. They also give space, at least on the front page, for these Kenyan queens who made history by breaking at least 2 world records in Eugene, Oregon. Beatrice Chebet and Faith Kipyegon. Congratulations once more.
Business Daily inside Kenya's 6.97 trillion shillings dirty money crackdown. And Kenya's Financial Intelligence Unit received filings of 6.976 trillion shillings, flagged as suspicious financial transactions over a 3-year period to 2023, a newly published report shows. Now, the Financial Reporting Center, Money Laundering and Terrorism Financing Trends and Typologies Report 2025 outlines how massive amounts of suspicious money moved through the financial sector, with banks handling 6.38 trillion shillings or 91% of the money.
Na mnajiuliza mbona Kiambu Road imejaa magari mpya kila siku?
Ndio hii. Nairobi Water illegally spent 1.2 billion shillings client deposits, and they say the Nairobi City Water and Storage Company is on the spot for irregularly spending more than 1.2 billion shillings customer deposit in the year ended June 2024, putting the water firm at risk of not being able to refund clients. On the Tika KRA nets non-residents with expanded powers, it has been granted expanded powers to collect taxes from persons not residing in Kenya but are subject to tax in the country. Oh, wow. Digital sellers, tech firms face 10 million shillings fines in new rules. And stockbrokers set for windfall as bond deals hit 1.4 trillion shillings. That's the Business Daily.
Kuna one business owner pale juu at the front of the Business Daily amekuwa quoted asema, owning a business is like driving on Kiambu Road. I have concluded after running my own farm for the last 16 years. That's Carol Musyoka. Kwani driving on Kiambu Road is that bad? Anyway, those are the local dailies, and on State of the Nation, we are hoping that this gentleman will make it. Barabara nyingi zimefungwa. Kipruto Arap Kirwa, former Agriculture Minister, Samuel Pogishio, former ICT Minister, and Wakili Ishmael Nyaribo. Let's hope we'll have them for this discussion this morning. Remember, a lot more coming your way later on the show, and we'll be telling you that. For now, let's take a look at the cartoons. Tuone wanazungumzia nini. We start off with the one on the Star. Na hapa kuna 3 different generations. Kuna boomers ambao washaanguka na wakaketi, millennials washaanza umiwa na magoti, lakini askari sasa wamepatia baton, handed the baton to the Gen Z, kukimbizwa na askari. Wale walikimbizwa na askari kidogo wakalemewa, hao pia wamechoka. Sasa Gen Z wamesika usukani. Cartoon on the Star.
This is daily. Is it
People Daily.
People Daily? Ruto caricatured here. President Ruto caricatured here. Of course, talks with the Gen Z, lakini hakuna Gen Z hapo. Leaderless.
Leaderless, tribeless. Ukitaka kuzungumza na unazungumza naye wapi? Unazungumza na nani?
Na nani?
Gen Z still making headlines or making it to the cartoons. And this gentleman makes it back to the and Harry, always when Harry is there at the Standard, when he's doing the cartoons, he always does global cartoons. Today he's actually come back home, and we have this paper jet called Broad-Based carrying Raila Odinga, and from up above there he's thinking it is hard to tell what the ground is saying. Huku chini ni heartbreak tu, heartbreak. Watu wanasema tu umetuumiza. Umetuumiza, lakini from up there anasema it is hard to tell what the ground is saying. Atakuwa Kamukunji leo.
Finally, of course,
Daily
matters. Daily Nation protests as well. RIPs zimejaa hapa, lakini Wakenya lazima warudi to protests. 35 years later.
Yes, a lot of death and destruction. The protesters wataendelea. So those are the cartoons. A lot of discussion around the demonstrations expected today as we commemorate 35 years since the Saba Saba demonstrations in 1990. When back then it was a clamor for multi-party democracy, now it is we're fighting for justice and equality.
Yes, and better governance.
And better governance.
Today being a Monday, Monday Blitz will also be here, hopefully, from 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. And Innocent Mutisa is back after a long time. Of course, Katela Macy and Freda Rocha will be here alongside Annette Washira.
All right. Still on Monday Blitz, they'll be hosting Boniface Ambani, who was a chairman. He was elected last week chairman, the new chairman of AFC Leopards. The new dawn at the Den. Yeah, it's a den for the Leopards. Chair.
Yeah. Later on, Matters Law will be talking to Evans Ndong on cyberbullying and online fraud. Are you protected?
All right, so join us, and we'll be hoping to keep updating you on what's happening across the country with the anticipated demonstrations as they mark the 35th anniversary of the Saba Saba protests. Interact with us on our socials, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and on YouTube, on X at TV47 News KE. My handle is at Anna_Odida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe. My handle is at Fred Ndimuli. See you after the break.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upward, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look
for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor. My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home, do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water.
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come.
The ODM party leaders emphasized that the main agenda of Saba Saba on July 7th, 1990 was to have a peaceful engagement at the historic Kamkunji grounds to discuss and seek opinions from the people, then present a memorandum to the government on the wishes of the people.
What I'm saying is that if you want to remember Saba Saba, then we go to Kamkunji. I always go to Kamkunji, even quietly, but I always go there on Saba Saba Day to just go and remember the people who lost their lives there.
Odinga now urging Kenyans to converge at the historic Kamkunji grounds Monday for the 35th anniversary. Odinga says he will personally be at the ground.
So my idea would be we go to Kamkunji tomorrow, because if you're talking about protesting, you are protesting, where is this protest going to start? And where is it going to?
The long-time opposition leader voiced his support for the youth's push for good governance and justice while emphasizing the need for dialogue to steer the country out of its current crisis.
You have not achieved everything that we want. You can see, for example, violations of human rights still abound here. You've seen police being able to shoot people, to kill. We have not carried out reforms which should have gone with the new constitution.
He says organizers of tomorrow's Saba Saba activity should do it in the spirit of the 1990 liberators by converging in one place and remember those who were killed in the fight for freedom and justice in Kenya.
You know, and therefore the many of our people are still deprived, are still suffering 60 years since independence. So there have been gains and there have been losses.
This comes at the time when there is heightened displeasure among the Gen Zs towards the government. Joash Onsare, TV 47.
Yes, indeed, you're watching Morning Cafe on TV 47. With me, Fred Indemuli, today being Saba Saba, 7th of July 2025, exactly 35 years from that very important day, I may call it that, back in 1990, when Kenyans and young Kenyans at that held the very first protest in the clamor for multi-party democracy. 35 years later, the debate has changed and a different generation has taken over the clamor for justice and good governance. That's the Gen Z. We're privileged to have someone who was able to witness the happenings in 1990 in studio. Kipruto Arap Kirwa, who has served as Cabinet Minister for Agriculture in the Kibaki I administration and also MP of Cherangani. Bona Kirwa, I don't know if you were already in Parliament or just about to become a member of Parliament back in 1990 when this clamor for multi-party democracy took place.
Yeah, thank you so much, Fred. And thank you also for us to be this morning, despite the hiccups that we faced on the way. Of course, at the Junction Mall, there is a block for nobody to get to town. And as I drove all the way to DCI, I realized there is another blockage, that I could not get to the studio in good time. And there were people also being blocked from going to town. So I had to do the roundabout way of going to the UN and back to this place. And I thank God we have been able to make it and share some of our frustrations with Kenyans. Indeed, I was a sitting member of Parliament at that particular time for the same constituency that I served for about 2 decades. And it was a very interesting moment because there was basic issue of multi-party democracy and all other issues carried with it, including the need to amend the constitution, what they were calling Section 2A, where it was declaring that KANU is the only party that is allowed by law to exist in Kenya. And at that time, if you were expelled from KANU, you lost your seat. I remember the late John Kipsang Koech, as I was coming in, he was expelled, and he was a minister at that particular time. And by the time he wanted to go to the chamber, he was already a former member and also a former minister. So it used to happen like that, and your fate is totally sealed. That's why people had to clamor for need to have alternative opinion in terms of political parties. This therefore tells you that KANU is the one that created multipartyism. Perhaps if KANU had all the democratic institutions within itself, perhaps the delay for multipartyism would have taken a bit of time. But of course, it was also informed by the world order, where the Berlin Wall was brought down in 1989, and therefore the Western world, which has of course been controlling our pace of democracy, our pace of development, now put more pressure on the direction of increasing democratic space. Because initially, some countries were either pro-East or pro-West. And of course, Mwalimu Nyerere and others tried the aligned movement, where even India was part of it, and several other countries, but it never took off properly. So when the Berlin Wall was brought down, so now the focus was on issues of democracy and issues of governance, and that also gave impetus to those who had Saba Saba 1 35 years ago.
All right. Are you able to draw any parallels with what's happening right now? Because most of these young generation Gen Zs were not born by then. But the significance of the clamor for multi-party democracy back then and now what they're clamoring for, justice and good governance, are you able to draw parallels between the two?
Yeah, there are a lot of parallels, one of which is the fact that this is a young generation. These are people who still got a lot of hope and a lot of positive thoughts about this country. And the other issue is the fact that the constitution that we have is a product of those who struggled in Saba Saba 1 and others who clamored for not only multipartyism, but also for the change of the constitution, starting with the removal of Section 2A, and also increasingly moving all the way about 20 years until 2010, that the president at that time, Mwai Kibaki, was able to promulgate the new constitution that we have today. So the young people are not asking for anything extra constitutional. They're asking for what is in the constitution, because in the constitution is the issue of governance, issues of representation, freedom of association, freedom of speech, freedom of even protest, and freedom that entails all the human rights aspects of enshrined in our constitution. So they are asking for what is there, and they are saying it is not just enough to have many parties. Mm-hmm. It is good for us, for everybody to be transparent, whether in the opposition, whether in government. So they are not really fighting the government. What they are telling the government is that do your role. Yeah. When you collect our taxes, perform. And when you perform, make sure there's no money lost.
All right. So Dongo Kundu is actually the top trend this morning on X, especially given the fact that a lot of young Kenyans had traveled to Mombasa and Diani for an event titled Summertide, and they were to travel back yesterday. Many of them were not able to board the SGR at 2 p.m. and neither at 10 p.m. and most of them are still stranded in Mombasa. Yeah. What we are seeing, and you described it earlier, the kind of blockade we are seeing around Nairobi, that we are not able to move around freely. And this is done by the state agencies. Yeah. And we wonder, because Article 39 of the Constitution guarantees freedom of movement and residence as well. Yeah. You are talking about the defiance of the Constitution, that all these things are enshrined in the Constitution, but it would appear that for some reason, we're just not following that Constitution.
We're not following because the current regime, as I said from the beginning of time, when I came to these studios, perhaps more than 1 year ago, is that this regime is increasingly becoming dictatorial. And we've been seeing it. They have done excesses. They have exceeded the Constitution in many, many instances, including this particular one, that they are blocking you, not knowing exactly what you're going to do. I remember I saw a number of doctors who were being blocked from, and they went, and some were nurses in their own uniform. They went all the way to the police, and they were told no. So they drove back, possibly to their houses. And now, what they are doing is they are actually saying they are claiming the state for you not to associate. Because even going to that place and having a party as young people, that's freedom of association. And the freedom of expression, they're expressing their youth. And you see, when somebody is young, they want to express themselves in so many ways. They dance their own style. They do things their own way. So blocking them from coming to Nairobi may be a blessing in disguise for Mombasa people to realize also that there is too much against them, because with a light note, they are exporting the protest to Mombasa. Because Mombasa protested last on the 25th, but they were more calm than was the case elsewhere. Mm-hmm. And that calmness actually was done because I could see somebody carrying walkie-talkie and leading them. It is the expression of the state that agitates the people of this country. By the time I got into the studio, if I was in the old style, I would have been so annoyed that why did they have to block me for no apparent reason.
Right. And I'm looking at the maps that I can see the entire stretch of Thika Road, especially between Kasarani and Allsops, is a dark red. I don't know what's happening. I'm sure it must have a lot to do with what's happening with the police blockade that has made it impossible to enter the CBD. But we've heard what the former Prime Minister said.
Yes.
That he's going to go to Kamukunji to commemorate the events of Saba Saba Day from 35 years ago, and I wonder, with all these police barricades, what would be his intention? We've heard the complaints from the Gen Z that Raila Odinga is not, in fact, they feel betrayed by Raila Odinga. But now we hear Raila Odinga saying he's going to go to Kamukunji today. Do you think that many people are going to be confused about Raila Odinga's intention?
In fact, until he makes pronouncement from Kamukunji, we suspect that he could actually be abating the kind of mayhem that the state wants to create in town. And we do not really have kind words for him. Why does he have to get into this situation? He knows the young people have been doing it on their own. They did not need Raila. Possibly Raila is trying to do a catch-up, but it is too little too late. Given the fact that young people are already feeling pissed off by the kind of attitude Raila has adopted since the so-called broad-based government. It has been something that it is not the Raila that we knew. And I do not know, and he was not even clear in exactly what he wants to do there. And he cannot say Kamukunji is the only place that people can go to commemorate. How about these other people who have been killed? How about the women who were to strip naked in Uhuru Park for their children to be released from detention?
Do you see it as an attempt to probably in some way pacify the young Kenyans who will be out on the streets today?
Perhaps because you see, in leadership at times, when you realize people are ahead of you, you follow them as if you are with them, then you take the lead at an appropriate time. So possibly, maybe, he wants to have an excuse to run away from the regime and join our side so that he can destroy our side again. Because he realizes, even with him, William Ruto is not likely to have a lot of support in the country come the next election. So perhaps he may be looking for an excuse to look that he's moving away from supporting the regime, and after that pretend to be part of the opposition. I strongly believe, with a lot of respect to Raila, that he's not doing us justice by playing double and being ambivalent in terms of the decisions he wants to take. The country has moved on. People are just waiting for the next election to make their own final decision on who the occupant of State House is going to be, with or without the charge that people are building now.
Okay. We were hoping that Samuel Pogishio would be able to join us in studio live. Bwana Pogishio is served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, as ICT Minister in the Kibaki II administration. He's been a Senator for West Pokot and also MP for Kacheliba. And we are hoping that he'll be joining us via video link. Do we have Waziri Pogishio? Good morning, Waziri Pogishio. Yes, we can, loud and clear. And we do apologize for the challenges you've had in trying to get to studio, but it is what everyone in the city is facing, and some even in Mombasa. And I know, did you expect that this would be the situation this morning, that roads would be impassable, that police would be the ones barricading the main roads into the CBD?
Well, that's very difficult to answer, because I thought today we were allowed, people were allowed to go into Kamukunji and to town to be able to celebrate 35 years of Saba Saba. And as you can see, it's either you're afraid not to go to work, or you're afraid not to go to do business in town. It's the same thing we're going to be struggling with for a long time, because I think the police need to begin to understand that they can actually facilitate these meetings easily, so that it doesn't cause any problem. So I did not expect that, but it looks like everybody was afraid to be on the road today. The police are manning. I'm told people cannot join from any other part of the country. There's so many things have happened. Even people who are coming on SGR could not come. It's very difficult to understand what's going on in the country, but we are hopeful that the celebrations will be done today. I didn't expect that. Very few people went to work today, and you can see the roads are just desolate.
We've just been discussing here with Waziri Kirwa the challenges that are there in terms of movement, but that former Prime Minister Raila Odinga has already indicated that he himself will be at Kamukunji grounds as part of the celebrations to mark the 35 years of Saba Saba. Now, do you see a contradiction there that if Raila Odinga makes it to Kamukunji and young Kenyans are not able to make it to the CBD, that it will be seen as double standards there?
Definitely, it will be seen as a double standard. But how will he make it there? I think it's if he can't make it, if he makes it there by facilitation, it will give a contradiction. But if he also struggles to get there like everybody else, then that could be a bit genuine. But if he's facilitated to get there, it will give a very bad image. And so I propose that he just goes like everybody else. And if it's difficult for everybody else, it should be difficult for him. And for the young people need to remember this date. The young people need to know the history of liberation in this country. They need to know that theirs is a struggle that has come and riding on other efforts which were made, much more difficult efforts which were made by young people like them those days. And so it's a history, 35 years ago, a history that they need to ride on and build on. And I think that for Honorable Raila to come in, he should come in embracing these young people. And if he's facilitated, he should facilitate the others as well, so that everybody has a chance to do the celebration. It will not be important for a few people to go to Kamukunji and the rest of the people finding it difficult to reach there. It should have been one of the greatest celebrations today. All of us who are sitting at home should actually be working towards going there to join in the celebration. This is one of the moments when I think a celebration can be facilitated by government, make it easy for everyone to get into the venues and enable them to celebrate. Usually, the intentions are good. What comes in is the mitigations that causes conflict. And so I would really like to see this time Honorable Raila Odinga embracing the younger people coming to celebrate this so that he can talk to them. He can, the history can be told to them right there, but it won't make any sense if they're being blocked from getting there.
Do you think that's the intention of the former Prime Minister, that probably he needs to bring the younger Kenyans into this conversation of what has been happening in the clamor for better governance, probably better democratic space? Or do you doubt his intention in as far as him declaring that he'll be in Kamukunji today?
Right, it's a bit difficult for me to say that, and I'd like to see, actually, that he said he's going to be there. He wants to go there. He cannot be there just by himself. There should be enough people who bring the history to life. There should be enough people to learn from that history. So I hope that by saying he'll be there, he means he'll be among the people. He'll be part and parcel of, the march to Kamukunji, for example, whatever it is that the meeting is going to be. I think that would be a very good sign. But as for the intentions, it's very difficult, by the way. The former Prime Minister has spoken on this issue. He has spoken on the issue of the Gen Zs. He has encouraged them to celebrate this day. And so he should not be the one to turn around and become the obstacle. Because he spoke as late as yesterday, saying, go ahead and celebrate, go ahead and demonstrate, go ahead and so show your freedom and your constitutional rights. Mm-hmm. So it cannot be the double speak unless he has began that culture recently. It should not be the double speak. It should not have that double speak. It should be the guy that we know as the freedom fighter, the one that has worked very well with the younger people. And that by joining government, it doesn't mean that you really have to give up a lot of your values. You should just be able to stand firm, like he did say yesterday. He stands with them. So let's see. Already the young people are being blocked from going anywhere. The roads are not being, there's no allowance whatsoever. And so let's wait and see then how those who get there. It should be very difficult. It's one of those moments that you can either create that culture of trust or you lose it. It's one of those days that you have an opportunity to actually regain trust or gain trust. And there's also that opportunity of losing it completely. So it's really up to the Prime Minister to choose. And I hope that he'll choose to allow for people to trust him for who really he is.
Yet you've had those criticisms directed his way that he has betrayed the movement for the past 1 year by joining government. He had been asked to sit this one out by the Gen Zs. He decided to take a very serious action. Do you feel that probably some of this criticism towards the former Prime Minister is a bit too harsh? Are we being unfair by calling him a betrayer of the cause?
Well, it's also difficult because this age is catching up as well. He's not the young person we knew that he was those days. He has an interest in supporting the government, and that creates a level of compromise. I can tell you that. So when we see now, you can see his statements, by the way, and they look very strange because to say that you'll just go to Kamukunji and shut yourself there. But how do you get to Kamukunji without passing through the streets, without passing through by which means people don't have cars to go just to Kamukunji, they have to walk. And if they cannot walk to Kamukunji, how are they going to be there? Is there transport for everybody? So you just have to understand that a lot of people will be walking from where they live to come to Kamukunji, and they will be stopped. And so they will not be able to make it there, and so on. It is in the process of getting to places that's where the issue is. And so if they're facilitated to get there, they'll come there. And you see, this language has changed recently where you see the former Prime Minister saying to people, you must have a definite destination, a definite starting point, and a definite destination. But even that has to be facilitated, surely. Yeah. Right. Where are you starting from? Even to get to where you want to start from, you walk there from someplace. And that is the issue. And always along the way before they get there, that's when they're intercepted. And I think that we actually need to start looking at the police facilitating people to get to where the demonstrations are, so that it's not like, because that's actually where the battle starts, that's where the conflict starts. Stopping people who are trying to get to a place where they can be together, start their protest, demonstration, whatever it is. So today, how do people get into Kamukunji without walking there? Through what streets? And so that's my issue. So the accusations can be valid. The accusations can be valid, looking at the way that you understand the young Raila Amolo Odinga. In the days, he would not have spoken like that. He would not have said, let's start from here and end here. Many times it wasn't easy. And it's not easy. It's not easy. And I think government can now begin to facilitate, like for now, this morning, should begin to facilitate those young people to get there, to get where they want to start. And then even when they end, facilitate their exit to get out to their homes. It will be very easy than beginning the conflict right from the entry point.
All right. And the police have definitely made their communications clear that by barricading the roads into the CBD. Thank you, Waziri Pogishio. Let me engage Waziri Kirwa here for a while. And still on the former Prime Minister, because it appears he's almost at a turning point in his career as a politician, or he has already turned to the other direction. Over the weekend, I saw some headlines talking about Raila Tough rebelling, probably because of what we saw in Homa Bay on Friday during the burial of Albert Ojwang, where most of those leaders who are supporting Raila Odinga were not given that kind of welcome that they had expected. Do you think that it is part of the concern and probably that may have jolted the former Prime Minister into this kind of action?
Yeah, it explains a lot because you see, for Raila that we've known, that Raila is the law in Luo Nyanza and a large section of this country. And Raila's word has been like the last covenant with the people from the days of Kibaki and many other elections that he has been able to fight, lose or win. But now for him to be seen negatively by young people, including the people from his own backyard, makes me worried. And I feel Raila must be in a very awkward position as we sit here, because it is not the Raila spirit that we knew that is now seems to be surrounding him. He wants to assist his friend William Ruto, but it seems he's assisting at his own expense. And whether Ruto will be able to say thank you to him for sustaining his government for the balance of the period is another story, because we know William has been very thankless. He has abandoned many of his colleagues. I'm not one of them, but there are many people who are close to him, many people who use their own time and resources to support him, and only for him to abandon them, including his first deputy president, the Honorable Rigathi Gachagua. He fought him as if he was a criminal. He made it appear like he did not know Rigathi Gachagua when he chose him as his running mate. So I want to advise Mr. Raila, who am I, that be cautious about this thing. Or rather he keeps quiet for the balance of the period. Let those in government from his party enjoy the perks that they're enjoying, but keep quiet because you are dealing with a situation that is very fluid. Kenyans are ahead of us, those of us who are above 60 and so forth. They're ahead of us, they know what they are doing, and they want to move on without us interfering with their turf.
Talking about the president, and in recent weeks, probably because everyone has been watching him and trying to see his tone, to hear and listen to his tone of voice on quite a number of issues. And the latest one, I think the biggest discussion has been his intention to build a church in State House. And in response, he says he has no apologies to make. Days to a key day like Saba Saba. Do you think that probably the president appears not really keen on reconciling with the younger Kenyans who are really opposed to his administration?
Well, one of my hopes is that I hope the president has no intention of building a chapel in State House or whatever form of church or whatever it is, because he seems to want to annoy us every day. Because in the first place, his salary, even if he was to be president for another 10 years or 8 years, the balance of the period, and beyond up to 2032, his salary will not even be 200 million. So for him to tell us that he's using his own resources, to say the least, is an insult to the spirit of Kenyans, and he seems to want to annoy us more. Number two, public participation has not taken place. For a place that is supposed to be owned by the Republic, for an individual to decide that he wants to spend his money to do a structure that may not be useful after he leaves office. The third issue is, why does he forget that there are other denominations, there are other religious, like the Muslims, there are the Hindus, there are other religions, and even those who don't go to church. They are also Kenyans, because the Constitution does provide that those people are there. So should there be a Muslim after him or later in future, is he going to allow, or is Kenya going to allow a mosque to be built there? Then possibly a synagogue, and of course the Hindu temple. Now, he's creating a lot of confusion. And to say the least, he really wants to annoy Kenyans because when he says he does not owe anybody an apology, let him buy 5 acres, call it State House Annex Church, built in a private land, the 5 acres or whatever, or the acreage in Nairobi. Then we can know that the president decided to donate to the state through the normal process. But you cannot just take part of State House and you build something which does not make it neutral. Because if he had built a hospital, we can say that hospital can be used by any religion. If he had built perhaps a hotel, we can say possibly this is for heads of state visiting Kenya, but not using his own resources because that is not sitting properly.
Do you think that such actions can be seen as unnecessarily antagonistic to younger Kenyans who are talking about issues like cost of living, good governance, that coming at this time, it would seem like direct provocation and antagonism?
It is antagonism not only to young Kenyans, to all of us. I'm equally annoyed. It's only that I'm no longer annoyed with him because I realize he has lost it. You know, you cannot have a president who every afternoon wants to insult Kenyans. Really, I know William. He became an MP in 1997. Whatever innovation, how many chicken is he going to sell to get 1.2 billion that he can just donate to such a cause? What is this innovation that all of a sudden he can just give money as if he has been doing so much business in this space, and yet he has been in politics like us. For us in politics, every day you lose money, and every election you incur expenses. And we know even he was struggling, because I was part of his team, he was struggling to get resources to run the election up to the last minute. He had to get a lot of support from various individuals, including the Muslim community and other Kenyans who were supporting him. So all of a sudden he has free money. It makes us question the source of the money. And you should realize that a donation is not in terms of the quantity. Remember the lady in the Bible who donated just a mere, possibly coin, and Jesus said that has donated so much more than anybody else because she gave the only thing she had. Okay. So it's not in terms of 1.2 billion or whatever the figure. I'm told they are now adjusting the figure. But I hope he has not built. I hope he's still seeking public opinion to know how the public will look at it.
Okay, let me get Bwana Pogishio's opinion on this issue. The younger Kenyans have been complaining about a show of opulence by Kenya's politicians, including the president, from last year. Looking at the designs of the church and the magnitude, the amount set to be spent on this structure, and coming at a time when this agitation is still on, do you think that probably the president is not in tandem with the feelings of younger Kenyans in terms of this show of opulence on his intention to build a church in State House? Do we have Waziri Pogishio? All right, we're experiencing some technical challenge there. But in as far as showing of
yeah.
Do we have Waziri Pogishio? Bwana Pogishio, wanted your comment on this issue about the president's intention to build a church. Probably it was revealed or the revelation was made without his intention for it to be made public. But for Kenyans to come to know about this around this time where there's so much agitation, so much discontent. I remember last year, part of the complaints by younger Kenyans, the Gen Zs, was about show of opulence by senior government officials, including himself. You'll need to unmute your microphone for you to be able to respond to this. But do you think that this is the same problem that Kenyans have been complaining about? That his intention to spend 1.2 billion shilling or whatever amount on a church at State House is also a show of opulence?
Fred, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Go ahead.
Okay. The reason we're having problems here, we have blackouts and so on. It is. Let me just say this: we have a situation in our hands that that has been discussed over the weekend. It has been thoroughly discussed by everybody. The church has weighed in. Even just the local people have weighed in, and everybody is saying to the president, please don't do that. And if he goes ahead to do it, it's not because he has not been told. And as a Christian, and also one of the people that would wonder why you need a church in State House, it has even been shown that there are so many churches at the doorstep of State House, within walking distances, so many of the denominations. And so there's no need to have a church just for State House people, when the children, the families can just go to one of those churches around. But you know, I don't understand. And I believe, by the way, that the reason why there was a temporary structure rather than a permanent one is because the former occupants of the place knew this is not their land. They knew that this is government property, and usually for something like that, unless it's approved, you will first of all do a temporary structure because it can be removed conveniently anytime it's not needed. But now when you make it permanent, it just goes against what is tradition, because that's just, I know it's a sacred place, but it is public space. And that question can be thrown to the public and say, what do you think? And let there be public participation. By the way, that's one of the things that to ignore the public is not a good thing for any governance. It's very important that we learn to bring the public in on those kind of things. When the renovation came in the State House, I know a number of people were offended by it because they didn't realize that they were going to change what we knew as State House and produce something else. So now adding more stuff and already asking government to, the parliament to look to allocate more money for renovation of State House. If you bring your own money into government projects, it's going to be difficult to audit. It's going to be difficult to audit that section. So it's not very easy for us to agree. But above all, like as Waziri Kirwa said, there are many other people who would be offended by just having a church there because their religion is different. Okay, so let's hope that these people will also realize that we have to be more accepting of other religions. Are we going to do a multi-purpose hall so that even Muslims can pray there, Hindus can pray there, other people can pray there? But finally, let's also agree that we are a secular state. The Constitution presents Kenya as a secular state. There should be no mixture. There should be no religious activity that separates or discriminates on the grounds of the State House. So all these things have been told. Lawyers have weighed in on it. Interpretations have been made, and it has nothing to do with even the pastors said, Fred. They said, even if you build it with gold, it is God. If it is God's house, God also requires that the intentions of doing it are good. It's not just a beautiful house that he wants. He wants to live in the hearts of the people. So I really want the president to weigh in on it again, to reconsider that. Why is everybody raising their voice? And if you care, why don't you just find out from your, I don't know, 20 advisors, whatever advisors, what can we do about this issue that seems to be fought by everybody? You know, you can't be the only right one. I mean, you must also ask other people for opinions. And I think this is the reason why those advisors are there. And so on my part, I would say take time, don't hurry. Let them use the temporary structure for the time being. These positions, by the way, we hold in trust, and we hold them temporarily in trust. So the time comes when you have to leave State House and somebody else comes in and might not want to see that church over there, some of them, and remove it. So what will be the use of that?
What
What also does it communicate? And I can see we've lost the signal, but thank you, Waziri Pogishio, at least we got your point to the end. What does it communicate when there's so much obsession around changing the way State House has looked for so many years? When there are other areas of priority, university funding is in crisis, funding of education is in crisis, capitation of schools and for schools and all these things. And then we hear there's spending so much money on renovating the State House, building a new church at State House, whether it's his money or taxpayers' money. What does it communicate?
It's communicating a government that whose priorities are warped. Warped in the sense that they seem to be talking about one thing and also displaying another story, because we do not have enough resources. And even if we had excess money, one would have actually advised the president that you can do a general structure within the State House, like a hall that can hold even up to 1,000 people, which is on Sunday or conveniently can be converted into whatever he wants, but not a separate structure from the institution of State House, because that actually will be communicating something to other faiths. Like I say, the Muslim faith, the Hindus, and other Kenyans who do not really belong to the Christian faith. But also, Fred, let's remind each other that the way Mheshimiwa Pogishio said, this is a secular government. We are not a government like the kingdoms in the Arab world, where most of them are Islamic states. We are not Christian nation. We are a nation of Christians, but we are not a Christian nation that we can say this is a Christian government and therefore everything is going to be done accordingly. So I hope his history is going to be refined for him to realize that those who are building synagogues within, those who are building like in the Muslim world, mosques within the precincts of a palace or a State House, those are doing it because those are Islamic states. Mm-hmm. But in a nation like such as Kenya, or in a state like Kenya, we should not be doing that kind of story. Remember, when we are under the colonial system, the Anglican Church was the church of the government of the day. Mm-hmm. And they built a church conveniently from State House, and the house of the bishop of the Anglican Church was next to the State House for purposes of ease of communication and for also the governor at that particular time to have some kind of interaction with the Anglican Church. But they did not build the Anglican Church within State House. Mm-hmm. So for President Ruto to do that is actually an insult to the collective intelligence of Kenyans. And he should realize, and it is he who used to tell us that Kenyans does not have as a scarcity of fools. So I don't know whether when he became president, he realized all of us are foolish. Mm-hmm. Because whatever he's doing is wrong. Right. And it cannot be explained in any other way than to say he's just provoking public outrage. It seems when the country is almost getting calm, he says something that will upset everybody. Like, who knew that on the eve of this Saba Saba, such an issue would come to the front pages of the newspapers?
Right. And yes, yesterday, on the eve of the Saba Saba demonstrations, the president spoke about the intention to build a church at State House, giving a justification of this intention. Let's listen to what the president had to say.
While maintaining he will still build the now controversial church, President Ruto has defended the project, saying he's not going to use taxpayers' money to build the church. Embu Governor Cecily Mbarire has pledged support for building of a church at the house on the hill using personal funds.
Na nimesema hatutatumia pesa ya serikali kujenga ile kanisa vile nyinyi hamujatumia pesa ya serikali kujenga hii yenu. Si hii yenu ni mchango yenu ndio mnajenga naye. Sisi tukijenga naye ile ya State House tubadilishe kutoka ya mabati iwe ya mawe, iko makosa.
The president has criticized the alleged estimated cost of construction of the church, estimated at 1.2 billion shillings, terming the figure as being exaggerated.
Kama hii mjengo ya ghorofa 11 ni 300 million. Kanisa ya watu 300 inaweza kufikaje 1 billion sijui na ngapi? Tafadhali jameni, wacheni porojo, wacheni propaganda, wacheni chuki. Mnachukia kanisa ya Mungu kwa sababu gani?
Contrary to the requirement of the law that expenditure must be clearly stated, what is it you want to do with that money? The Kenyan shillings 3,111,052,000 is allocated to the unknown other operating expenses. That means that they have taken care of all known expenses at State House, and the Kenya shillings 3,111,052,000 is to be used for anything the president dreams up, like that church.
President Ruto has also warned public hospitals against charging on primary health care services, insisting they should be offered free of charge, and asked Kenyans to report hospitals that charge fee on the services.
Tuko na mahospitali wako na ujeuri. Mwananchi anaenda pale, wanamtibu alafu wanamwambia lipa pesa 200, 100, 300, 500.
Public Service Cabinet Secretary Geoffrey Ruku, also present, issued a stern directive that all civil servants must report to work on Monday, July 7th, despite anticipated Saba Saba protests, warning them against using the protests as an excuse to skip duty.
Wale ambao wanasema ya kwamba ati kesho is a public holiday, we are expecting to be in our offices at the required time according to the policies put in place.
The sentiments come even as national discourse intensifies ahead of Saba Saba demonstrations. Joash Onsare, TV 47.
Yes, it is the tone of voice by the president and his allies on those issues. At a time when probably they should be a bit more sensitive to what the younger Kenyans are saying. Do you think that the president is taking this continued demonstration seriously?
Well, I don't know whether he's just lost hope, because if it's somebody who is still going for re-election, you can be more kind to your constituents or to your voters, because you see, the more you tell them, of course they are not easy. It never gave us the figure, whether it is going to be 1.2 billion or whatever the figure. He just demonstrated by telling us another structure, possibly in Embu, with 11 floors, and saying that it costs about 300 million, without telling us this is the money that I intend to set aside. So we still rely on 1.2 billion, which we suspect is either going to be part of public resources or from a source that we cannot describe. It cannot describe, because being a businessman, even if your turnover is 1.2 billion, that is not the money that you take home. It is the money that will also go to taxes and other expenses. And I hope you will be able to stipulate how he's going to pay tax on this 1.2 billion and also declare the source of that particular money. So it worries me that the president has become totally arrogant. And it is a script that he showed us from the beginning, that he was going to exceed the constitution, he was going to destroy institutions, he was going to destroy the media or clamp on the media, he was going to destroy the public service and weaponize law enforcers to make sure that you are arrested, and when you are acquitted by court of law, you are rearrested under Terrorist Act, that you are a terrorist. And of course, we don't know what will happen today. We hope they are not going to cause a lot of problems and declare a state of emergency. That will actually precipitate a serious problem to the people of this country. Like today, I know many people will lose businesses. Today, I know many people will not reach, because you see, the junction that I referred to is about 9 kilometers to CBD, to Mboya Street. This place could actually be almost 8 kilometers to town. So those people who have been taking their wares to town, they are not going to take them. Those people who are now being told by Ruto to go to work, they will have to walk these 8 kilometers and back 8 kilometers because there is no matatu that is going to town, unless they have opened now. But when I came here, the matatus were lined up. No vehicle was going to town, and no vehicle was getting out of town.
Now, the headlines this morning read about a big test. The Daily Nation talks about the Saba Saba test. What exactly will happen today? On the front page of the Standard, those mothers who came out yesterday to appeal to the president and the police, do not kill our sons. They were attacked by goons. Yeah. An indication of what we should expect today, that the same way they dealt with a small press briefing yesterday, probably that's what we're going to see today. Do you think that do we expect anything to change from what we saw, how police handled June 25th protests?
No, it will not change, because even as we were waiting to get clearance to come here at the DCI, there was some young men wielding crude weapons and telling us there is no meeting here, go home. And in the midst of police. So I don't know whether these are policemen in some kind of private attire, carrying crude weapons, or are these the goons that have been escorting policemen or being escorted by police to cause mayhem in town and blame it on the GNCs. I'm worried it may not change. It may be even worse than has been the case before.
All right. And listening to a lot more leaders speak about what has been happening in the country with the continued demonstrations, one of them whom you've worked closely with is the current Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi. He talked about and he made comparison with the kind of governments that we have, especially in Burkina Faso. And he said directly what he meant was that the leader of Burkina Faso, Traore, is not necessarily the kind of leader that we want in Kenya. And I wonder, this is a kind of leader that young Kenyans and young Africans have been talking about and saying that's probably the kind of leader who would listen to us. Do you understand that kind of advice from a person you call your friend? Or do you think is a bit misguided?
Well, I think Musalia, since the party was swallowed, has also been swallowed in terms of focus on issues international, despite the fact that he's Minister for Foreign Relations and Diaspora. Burkina Faso is an exemplary case in Africa, whether it's using AI-generated information, but whatever we know about the country today is that it has reversed the debt that the country owed to many other institutions by ensuring that the gold that was seized in Burkina Faso was used to retire the debt. And actually it showed the truth that we've always known, that for every $1 that gets to Africa, $7 will leave the continent by the same transaction. So Burkina Faso, by seizing the gold and other minerals, and for the information of those who may not know, President Ibrahim Traore has a master's degree in geology. So he understood the essence of minerals for his country and the connection between minerals that are being mined by other entities and the wealth of the country. To come closer home, Museveni may be somebody that many people don't like, but the fact that he has refused to mine some minerals in his country because he was told, yes, we are mining, but you will take almost 1/7 of the total value. He said the minerals will remain as long as we do not have capacity to mine. This is something that we should be thinking as a country, so that we do not just import, whether it is money from China or money from wherever, not knowing that this money that is coming here is coming to take away money from us. And therefore our GDP will just be a relative term. But in reality, it is not something that you can quantify as growth. Because GDP growth, Fred, is not necessarily prosperity. It must have a transformative agenda to the people of the country that transaction is being done.
All right.
So I sympathize with Musalia Mudavadi. He lost the party, he has lost the direction, And actually, he should be preparing to retire with the president.
All right. I don't know if we still have Waziri Pogishio because we're coming almost to the end of this conversation. I would like to get his view on probably those sentiments by Musalia Mudavadi. All right. But you mentioned that, yes, he is a CS in charge of foreign affairs. We've been talking about Kenya's foreign policy and the kind of gaffes this administration has had. Have you ever in your history, even as a member of cabinet, had of a foreign affairs CS or minister talking about another country in that kind of light?
Well, it's against international protocol and the procedure. Perhaps the only thing that I can say about Traore is that we do not wish that we go the military way for the current president to be removed. He should be removed democratically. But all other things that he has done, we are happy.
Okay.
Yeah, including the fact that anybody above certain age does not pay electricity bill.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is AI generated, it is wrong. But the goofs this government has made since it took over, there are about 11 of them. And I don't want to spend your time mentioning them. But remember, even whatever they were doing about RSF from Sudan. And Sudan is taking us to ICC. Mm-hmm. International, not ICC.
ICJ.
ICJ, mm-hmm. Because of what we've been doing. And many other things that you know.
I am told that Waziri Pogishio is still with us via video link. When Pogishio, we're talking about the sentiments shared by Prime Cabinet Secretary, who was also in charge of the foreign affairs, Musalia Mudavadi, with regard to the possibility of military governments vis-a-vis civilian governments. He made mention of, or used Burkina Faso as an example, but he is foreign affairs CS. Do you think that was a right approach from someone of his stature?
I've no video link, but I'll be on phone link. Is that okay? I can speak to you from the phone.
We can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay. Sometimes, by the way, sometimes, and as we've seen in the case of the CS for Interior, we've seen in this case the CS for Foreign Affairs, sometimes people communicate thinking that it's a closed door situation. It's not going to go anywhere, and they find themselves putting the country in such a danger because one of the reasons they can speak about that country and about that president is probably because they have been removed from the AU, but they're still an independent country. They're still part and parcel of the international community and part and parcel of what you call the world order. And so when you speak derogatory things, you make derogatory statements on any president or any sovereign state, you stand to put our country to shame. You put a country on the path, a war path, for nothing, for absolutely no reason at all. So maybe the minister didn't realize that in this age, there's nothing you can say under the table. There's no more anything you can hide. Or try to say I'm whispering this to a small group of people. No. And the way he spoke more like somebody who's trying to win some kind of sympathy from his team. No, that is very unfair. The way we speak about other countries, and I know again, CS for Interior, more comments one time spoke about other countries. And again, even when he said these things that he said recently about shoot-to-kill order, he was not realizing that the world picks it. And now it's quoted in international media. Even this now is going to create another furor for nothing. Really, it was very uncalled for. So Fred, all these people have advisors. They have advisors. There's so many lists, so many of them. And I think somebody should just be able to say, when you're foreign affairs, you have to be extremely careful what you say. And so, I followed it, and I thought also if I had put a call, I would put a call to the Prime Cabinet Minister and say, you remember, you are not the politician at this hour. You are the minister in charge of our foreign policy, and that the policy that governs every state of reciprocity. So now what is going to stop that country from speaking badly about us? So it is all reciprocal. And I think that's why they missed the point. And I hope that they make apologies and make sure that this thing doesn't escalate beyond where it is right now. But Fred, I must repeat, in this day and age, whatever you do, you'll be heard, you'll be seen. Looks to me like even today, everything that everybody's planning today, if they're planning goods, it's all being seen. If they're planning whatever they're planning, it's not easy. So when you speak, make sure you check to be sure that it is in tandem with the policy that you represent in this country.
All right. And as you make your final comments, Bwana Pogishio, of course, his suggestion is that any civilian government is definitely better than a military government, suggesting that all civilian governments are inherently better. Do you agree with that? Or do you also feel that civilian governments can also be as bad or as corrupt, dictatorial as well as a military one?
Well, the situations are different, and I want to say this about Burkina Faso. Yeah, you must realize that the trend over there was absolutely no more democracy, because there was an influx of terrorist attacks, and they were taking over large parts of the country and so on. So when that country was going to solve that problem, we can condemn what they did, the way they did it, but apparently it's the things at the development level now and the protection level, security level of that country has kind of improved, because now they're dealing with it, and you can see. We don't want to praise military coups and military return to military governments that we've had. I don't want to do that. So, and it's very difficult for us to know why these states in those places are actually kicking out foreigners and then being able, therefore, to deal with their situation as it is in an emergency situation. So I don't want to say that we would encourage that, but still, they are sovereign states. They solve their problems the same way that we solve our problems. They have another way of dealing with it. If the people also like them and support them, that's a different way of looking at it. We don't want to go that way as Kenya. We are very much a democracy. I've said on this set, Kenya is a special country. We must do everything to protect Kenya from going that direction, but also the government of the day should aim to bring peace to the country. On a day like this, on other days, like facilitating people, allowing people to express themselves, and this is what we voted for in multipartism. Also to respect the people who are not on your side of the political divide. Give them a chance to do their politics as well.
All right. Bwana Kirwa, do you agree that civilian governments, and you're not in any way saying that military governments are the way to go, but that civilian governments have also very many challenges, and some of them are just probably even worse than military ones?
Indeed, every country takes the cue from the leader of that particular country. And at times when a leader does well, the rest of the country will reflect on the thinking and the direction of the leader. We have a combination of military and civilian governments that have done well. In Nigeria, when the late Murtala Muhammad took office, he was able to rein in good manners in Nigeria. And at 7 o'clock, everybody would be in the office waiting to start the work. But of course, Murtala Muhammad never lasted. He was assassinated, and other subsequent events took place. Thomas Sankara in 1983, when he took over Burkina Faso, he's the one who changed the name. And of course, for those who may need to know, is that the Burkina Faso means the country of honest people. Thomas Sankara was able to perform in 3 years before he was assassinated through the instigation of his own deputy president, or who was his ally. They were good friends. They used to visit their homes and so forth. Thomas Sankara was assassinated by his friend, but through some tacit support from the French. And the French did not like Thomas Sankara because he had already instilled good way of doing things among the people. He was selfless because by the time he died, I think he owned 1 or 2 bicycles and 1 miserable car. And if you are to see the background, even his family is living in abject poverty. So you can see that's another military person who did well. Nyerere here in Tanzania, he was able to imbue in the people of Tanzania how to be a nation. He was able to build a nation, but we have been struggling to build a country. We've been struggling, we are just a state, but we are not yet at the stage of a nation where we feel we have common heritage and we have also a destiny that we all belong. We've become a collection of tribes existing in the boundaries of a country called Kenya. So it is not necessarily that military governments, civilian governments do better. It depends, even in China, which is really not democratic by any standards, but in terms of governance, they're ahead of us. Because corruption there is rewarded by punishment. In Japan, they are a bit democratic. They also punish any issue of corruption or of impropriety. Like one time, Minister for Transport committed suicide because there was a derailment of the railway. So it depends on the leader. You see all these things, and Gino Achepe puts it very well in his small book, The Trouble in Nigeria, which has now been turned into Image of Africa, by saying the problem with Africa is nothing but leadership. The first problem for Africa is leadership. Second, leadership. Third, leadership. People are good. The climate is good. People are hardworking like Kenyans. People have gone to school like Kenyans. Our technology level is very high. But the leadership is the main problem. And at times, with a lot of apology to many people, we should not make this look like this is synonymous with the Kalenjin nation. There are many good Kalenjins. It's only William Ruto who has let us down by using a robust constitution to behave worse than Moi when Moi was using a constitution that would allow detention without trial.
All right. And yes, quite a big day today, of course. Saba Saba tests. That's a big headline on the front page of the Daily Nation. Don't kill our sons. It's the front page of the Standard, and a defiant nation on the front page of the People Daily. 35 years after the very first protests in agitation for multi-party democracy. I would like to thank Kipruto Arap Kirwa, who served as Agriculture Minister in the Kibaki One administration and also as MP of Chirangani, and Samuel Pogishio, who had joined us initially via video link and later via phone call. He was ICT Minister in the Kibaki Two administration. He served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament, Senator West Pokot, and also MP for Kacheliba. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time and the rich contribution, especially on the history of the Saba Saba demonstrations. Today, yes, we mark 35 years later, but young Kenyans have their own agitation for justice and good governance. We'll be keeping you updated on the happenings in and around the CBD and also from areas around Mombasa where hundreds of young Kenyans are still stranded. But after the break, we'll switch gears and talk matters sports. Monday Blitz, Fred Arocho and Katela Macy will be leading that conversation. Do stand by for that. And later on, Matters Law. My name is Fred Indimuli. Let's hope for a better headline tomorrow.